Crack of the bat. Crack of the bat. Loud crack of the bat. Deep fly ball. Bertie Williams is going back to the fence. He bends his knees. He leaps up. He reaches and he missed it. Caught by the hot dog vendor. Just kidding. He caught it. No hitter, Jim Abbott. Episode 95. If you're watching on YouTube, you've got a beautiful beard. That is one, Chad Chop. And you've got another beautiful beard. And I'm going to start with you, Flick Money. That hat makes me want to be a better father. Give me the story there, brother.
The story is, Coach, a big fan of hats, collector of hats, and I noticed the bigger my forehead gets, the more creative my hat wear gets. So this is a motif I like to call jazz bassist in Paris, and that's what I'm going for. That's the aesthetic I'm going for today, and I can't wait to see what it does to my coaching chops.
Oh, speaking of coaching chops, we've got the beard dialed in Arizona. How was your weekend? How does your beard smell?
Beard smells strong. I had a nice little 70th birthday for my mom, so we went out to California, right by you, Coach Ballgame, and
Come on, right
oh
by
yeah,
the Louisiana-California bayou.
Tustin Ranch Road, man. Yeah, we were right there, and threw a big shindig. It was awesome celebrating my mom, and got to see a lot of family. And now we're back here in sunny Arizona. It's great.
Well, snaps in the chat and a big attagirl for Chad Chop's mom, who raised a good one right there. She's doing it right. So I hope she has a joyful day, full of fruity pebbles and smiles and just thoughts of her son and wonderful diesel daughter and all those grandkids. Wonderful stuff, indeed. Guys, it's episode 95. We're tiptoeing to a hundo. And when we get to our 100th episode, little surprise. I got a little surprise for you guys. I have no idea what it is, but I know it's going to be a surprise. Maybe a pizza party. Who knows? I want to get a little housekeeping out of the way, and then we're going to get right to your questions. We've got a bevy of questions to get to from the listener. Thank you, listener, for listening. Patrons, you've been supporting patiently, and I think your tool pouches are growing because of all this consumption. So thank you. If you want to support, patreon.com/chop and ball game. Tommy G behind the scenes creating a new flyer for us, a new thumbnail. You might have noticed if you're watching on the YouTube. And if you don't watch on the YouTube, start doing it. Dial it in. You can see these faces and these beards and these hats of bass players in Paris. Flick Money, you just, it really, you want to see this party in action. I just got back from a little Sandlot swing. I did the Midwest guys, and then I did the East Coast. So just some shout outs to my boots. They're all El Presidentes and commissions. Those are their nicknames. They're all commissioners and Little League presidents in Milwaukee, Chicago, the Baltimore, Maryland area. Actually went into Frederick, Maryland, where there is a museum for the one and only Francis Scott Key. And then drove up the turnpike to the tri-state area, finishing in Long Island. Posted a video on my socials from Long Island, 110 kids. And I got to tell you, it was dialed. I do want to say, maybe this will give some of you coaches out there just a little pump up. We had 110 kids that were extremely joyful, but we did get one bad review, and it happens every now and again. That 111th kid came, and I got an email afterwards that said, we showed up, and we first of all, we thought there'd be more girls. There was a whole lot of boys, not as many girls, which I totally get. And I might be dropping some news on that topic later this week. But also said whoever was running the stretching sounded like a gatekeeper at an airport, and the energy and the leadership was so lackluster that we had to get out of there. And so that was me. I was running the stretching, and so I was the gate attendant at an airport, and I had lackluster leadership. And hey, all that to say, you can't please everybody. I had the megaphone. I had 110 kids, and I had them smelling their armpits, smelling their kneecaps. My kneecaps smelled like cat food. And then we went into the flamingo stretch and all that good yoga stuff. And hey, one particular parent said no, walked away, so we refunded swiftly. I did email, and with empathy, I said, I am sorry that you were unhappy. They only stayed 2 minutes, though. So I did say, I wish you would have stayed maybe 5 because we had a dozen girls out there. And for 3 hours, it was joy and character development. So, all that to say, if you've got that parent on your squad, coaches out there, hey, join the club. It's the first time I've ever been characterized as a gate attendant, and it made me want to say, hey, where's the fire? If you've ever seen Meet the Parents. So, any reactions to that? Flick Money, Choparooski on, one bad review.
Coach, uh, I am an acquired taste for many people. I've received several bad reviews over the years. First of all, big ups to you. Great job responding with empathy. Love that. I'm a little bit concerned. This is part of the wider conversation. What kind of a country, what kind of a kind of communities are we preparing when we allow our children or anyone, we as adults, make a judgment about something in 2 minutes, a full judgment, categorical, this is a no in 2 minutes, pushing through some level of discomfort, understanding that maybe they were hoping for a more personal experience. You get 110 kids, it can feel a little overwhelming. Maybe there's some social anxiety. There's a lot that could be happening, but pushing through some of that discomfort, I think, is really important for young ball players. Now, maybe at the 30-minute mark, hour mark, they go, hey, this is not for me. Respect it. I respect it anyway. You get to choose how you do this life, but I just do want to be a stand for let's push our kids out of their comfort zone. Let's push ourselves out of our comfort zone so that we don't shrivel up and become old crotchety adults who scream at kids on our lawn, and then make informed decisions and try to handle it with empathy. But I think it's okay to say, Coach, this isn't for everyone. I'm not for everyone. I get it. But what you are amazing at is you are building a very wide bridge to get a lot of people across the river of joy, refinding joy in youth sports, and that bridge may not be able to catch every human. And I think that's okay.
Well, I think this podcast helped me in my reaction to that. I don't like getting criticized by any means. I'm confident that this thing that we do around the country is for everybody. But after that little ding of ouch, whoa, man, it didn't get to listen to the Clemente story, the Jim Abbott story. We had 9 stations going, volunteers galore. So there, it was broken up into groups of 11 or 12, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of movement. We did all the things. So to your point there, I treaded with empathy, and yeah, something else was going on. Not my place to push back. I just said, yeah, that the not for everybody, acquired taste indeed. But this podcast helped me with that reaction, no doubt about it. And I knew as soon as that email came through, this is going to pump up a coach that listens to this episode today to just know, hey, people might be going through things that we don't understand, and they might just take it out on you. We as coaches sometimes do that, where we've had a bad week at work, we take it out on our kids on the team, and that's where we've learned to apologize and make up for it. So, Chopper, how do you deal with any criticism, if so, from the 1%?
Yeah, I just think we get to choose what we focus on. So you could look at, man, I let down one family, or you could look at the 110 kids that you impacted in a positive way. So the one that was wasn't feeling it, you treated them with love and grace and respect and gave them their money back and said, "Hey, thank you. I'm sorry it wasn't for you." And then you go ahead and release that. Maybe send them a well-wishing, man, I hope whatever they're going through, they feel better, or next time they experience something, they'll get what they want out of it. And you leave that where it belongs. And then you focus on the 110 families and kids that you impacted. That's the lesson we tell our kids, right? If they have a practice that has some highs and some lows, what can you learn from the low and then release that and then focus on the high? So us as coaches, it's the same thing. And I think you did that. And I'm extremely proud of you, dude. That, yeah, it's never fun when we think we're awesome and we hear something like that, but we got to understand a lot of times it's not that we're not awesome. It's just the lens that other folks are looking through, and they're entitled to that. So yeah, I feel like you handled it well, buddy.
It did open my eyes to like the way I talk and what I do. Having kids stretch and does your knee smell like fruity pebbles? It's not maybe what you normally see out of a somebody stretching a group of kids. But it is me. It's who I am. And she obviously didn't have any idea, hadn't seen any videos going into it, didn't know Coach Ballgame from Moses. But I do know this: when Mrs. Ballgame saw that email, I'm very glad she wasn't on Long Island, because I learned something about my wife. She will punch somebody. And if she could have punched somebody that day, she would have. So God bless Mrs. Ballgame. Love her. But yeah, no punches thrown
Hey,
whatsoever.
hey,
Just
coach.
take it and learn from it. Yeah.
Dynamite drop in here, but on the criticism specifically regarding the gatekeeper at an airport, you are boarding people onto the joy plane, okay? And sometimes when you get 110 people at an air coming from, they got their McGriddle in the bag, they're coming in late running, there's bags going. Sometimes you gotta round them up and herd them with a little bit of gatekeeper efficiency. So I have no problem with that. Joy Airlines is taking off, and if you need to use a bullhorn, use a bullhorn. We would love to give everyone a one-on-three personal stretching where we speak in hushed tones, but that's just not the way. That's not the reality of a Sandlot. So yeah, much love and respect for the family. Hope that they're okay.
Huge, huge props to Coach Kamish there in Long Island. Just, 4 turfed fields. Really, he spent months planning this thing out. He actually, a la Coach Chop, had all 9 stations, had them mapped out on a diagram, sent me the printed out version where he knew which coaches were going to be running each station, partner throw and catch, batting practice, had the coaches' names on there. So dialed in, man, and it's going to be huge next year. Going to involve more little leagues. So um, lots of cool, fun news on the Sandlot Tour front moving into 2025. But I leave tomorrow. September's a crazy month. I leave for the Southeast. Little rain coming through North Carolina, so we might have to use some indoor facilities. But I hope to see some of you in Huntersville, the Outer Banks, over in Wilson, Smithfield, VA, and we're doing Jeff Francoeur and Mark DeRosa down in Atlanta, Georgia on the 25th. So that's gonna be fun. And there might be a little golf the next day with Brian McCann, D-Row, and Francoeur. Hopefully I don't finish 4th place, which I might. See if we can get Javier Lopez there too, Coach. He's in that area. That's a good one. Maybe shoot him a text there, Chopper. See if we
Chase
can get
Smooth
him
and
there.
Ryan Vogelsong right there. Oh yeah.
Oh man, big time. Um, well, want to thank all of you that watched the movie Rally Caps. It's out. It hit Apple TV. It hit Amazon. A lot of my friends were texting me, dude, I thought you just had a cameo teaching baseball skills. You're all over this thing, and there was some meaty scenes there. I'm proud to say that my first love was basketball. My second love was acting and writing, and I got to kind of do both of those in this movie while being Coach Ballgame. So um, it'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry. Chopper, I know you saw it. Give me your Siskel and Ebert with Rally Caps.
I mean, it's 2 thumbs up. If you love Coach Ballgame, you're gonna love the movie. It did. It did. As a parent, it got me a little emotional at times. There's no doubt about it. When you see a kid going through it a little bit, I don't want to give away the plot. But no, it was awesome. It's vintage Coach Ballgame. It's a great feel good movie. There's no cussing. It's something you can have the whole family from ages, two and up. They can watch this thing. Super enjoyable. I loved it. Yeah, it's great.
Thanks,
I'm a
brother.
huge Coach Ballgame guy. So
Oh,
yeah, it was not a cameo.
a
In
huge,
fact,
huge chop guy.
Bo, aka number 35, when the credits were starting, we were like waiting, like James Lowe, and he called you James Lowe, and then it popped up James Lowe. So it
Oh,
was
my
pretty cool. It was
man.
pretty special.
Give him an attaboy. Lots of different topics it hits on. I think my favorite theme um, was this idea that kids can't talk about what's bothering them, and throwing stuff under the rug. This stigma that it just rub some dirt on it and get out there. Uh, there was this theme is hit pretty hard, and I get to share the message we share on this podcast, where let's create a culture where if somebody's hurting, somebody's in a dark moment, I'm a listening board for you. I'm ready. What do you got for me? I'll let you know when I'm struggling, and be vulnerable and open. But to create this platform, which the writer and director Lee did, and really asked me questions. What do you think about these topics of kids overcoming adversity, and is it important to create this culture of inclusivity? Yeah, that was my favorite theme of it, and to be able um, to explore the space in some scenes and get there, it was really fun to do. So proud of it. Go see it, and then more big news on that front coming in October. So there's a tease there.
Bo
Thank
did,
you. Thank
Bo,
you. Yes.
Bo did say at the end there, the last like action scene on the field, he's like, why did they, that was a force play. Wait, why did they get
Went inside baseball a little bit
so
there.
good? I love it.
Dialed in. He's like, man, got to go to second base on that play
Movement,
right there. It's a force play. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You don't have to tag.
this is unlimited.
Love that.
I love
Love
that.
it. Well,
Coach,
yeah.
quick, I got to give my Roger Ebert here. I'm a couple classes shy of a Master of Science in licensed mental health counseling. I just loved the layers of this movie, including we're talking about a child who's dealing with trauma on multiple fronts, some physical trauma and also some emotional trauma, and there's something in it for everyone. Love that there's a whole adult layer of how we can support young people who are trying to work through those things. There's the kid layers are obvious and fantastic, and yeah, could not recommend higher. It's like if I loved Bad News Bears as a kid. Absolutely, probably watched it 1,000 times. When Kelly Leak shows up on the field in the motorcycle, just fires me up every time. You know, loved Sandlot obviously, but this one has a different level of emotional intelligence to it. Where Sandlot has this kind of fantastic, here's what's possible if everyone treated each other with some kindness and respect. But this one has some just a deeper level of EQ, and so yeah, just amazing job by you. First of all, I was sitting there with my partner and saying, this was Jimmy, this was Coach Ballgame's first love, was acting, and you were so good. You'd think like, oh well, he's just playing himself. Yeah, but not really. You're still on camera. It's still go time, and you were natural and smooth. It came out really, really effortlessly in the way that I can get lost in the actual story and not like, oh, I'm watching my friend try to act. It was really just beautiful. And so big props to you, big props to the writer and all the crew who worked on it. The kids, amazing job. So yeah, excited to cross the ties and spread the word on Rally Caps.
High praise from both of you guys. I appreciate that big time. We did a screening at the SAG AFTRA Foundation this weekend. Amy Smart was there, and you talk about a pro in this movie. There are scenes where she's just in a room by herself, and she is hitting grand slams. She is hitting every moment. When I think Amy Smart, I think honesty, and she carries the emotional weight of this movie hits every moment. And Judd Hirsch is a legend, and he brought it as well. So happy. And if that's the last movie I ever do, I'm good. So love it, love it, love it, love it. We've got some questions to hit from our fans. As always, if you're a listener and you have a question come up, then email me or just DM me on Instagram. That's the one place on social media I check the DMs. So it gets a little much if I try to do all the others. But Instagram, DM me your question. I threw in our stories, in my Coach Ballgame stories, tell me what you got, any problems. So we have plenty of those to talk about. But before that, yesterday was Avery Jean's first softball game. And I got to practice what we preach. I was just dad. I did help at the beginning of the game. The coach needed to split the girls up into 3 groups, so I did the wiffle ball BP. And I was a little in my head, of course. I'm like, okay, I'm Coach Peanut Butter and Jelly here. I'm not Coach Ballgame. I don't want to overload the fun factor and be disingenuous. Yeah, I'm just inside my head because this is new for me, just being dad who's helping out as opposed to ball game running the show. But proud of Avery Jean for getting out there and her first softball game. And wouldn't you know it, made her dad very proud. Her first at bat, what happened? Hit by the pitch. Got hit right in the calf and bounce back salute. They allowed her to stay in the box to keep batting, and she went down swinging. 3 good swings and misses, but again, aggressive, went down swinging, and went down smiling. Got back in the dugout with that positive attitude. I mean, she's a dancer out there trying to do something new, and so I was proud. I took my lawn chair under the tree way out in right field. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful place to sit, watch the whole game. Took some notes of some things. Oh, definitely, Avery Jean needs to learn how to go towards the ball when she's playing middle infield, and jobs of a cutoff, things like that. Didn't speak of it yesterday at all, but did write it down. And then afterwards, just asked her, how'd you like it? And she loved the social aspect of it. She loved all the cheers from the dugout and the different chants that they do. I will say some of the softball chants are a little mean spirited there, and it was like, whoa, okay, like hanging them out to dry and putting them in a lake, and what? It kind of sounds like you want them to be dead. So my not what we would do at the Sandlot, but again, I was a consumer. I was sitting in the bleachers just to watching. I will say, go back and listen to our episode. Did we change Little League? A few episodes back, but it rears its ugly head everywhere. Baseball, softball, just alike, where something's got to give where there's more movement. I saw, 200 pitches. I saw 7 balls put in play. And I think maybe 2.5 innings were played in 100 minutes. So that is no fault of a coach, no fault of a player. It's just some kind of rule changes have to be made. And at some point it was like, somebody just needs to walk out there and say, you know what, let's get this ball in play more. Let's have some coaches do some pitching, because it is, and it's relentless of, kids are just learning how to pitch. So it's a wild pitch. The catcher is playing fetch at the best of their ability. They are bulldogs back there. But the other 12, 13 kids on each team are just standing around. And then the one thing that gets to happen is a batter walks, steals second, steals third, steals home. So that's really the only kid having fun. And then you got 25 that are not, the pitcher is crying. So there's a lot to unpack there. And I've got a phone call with Little League proper. And I know softball and baseball are completely different, but Just across the board, some changes should get made because in 200 pitches, if you've got 7 balls put in play, 100 wild pitches, and 100 stolen bases, come on. Nobody's really learning anything here. So again, bat on ball, people moving to the ball, people covering a base, people learning how to back up a base, and then next batter up. Seems like common sense, but it's not. So before we hit any questions, we hammer that topic a lot, but anything hitting you guys on that topic?
One thing that jumps out at me, Coach, is just, I'm just so grateful. We grew up in an era I could go to the park. I rode my bike to a park and played 100 innings, a day for a long time as a kid with older kids and trying to learn, that 14-year-old had to hit left-handed and we had to work things out. But what I got in those experiences is reps. We got a lot of reps. I got a lot of ABs. So when it came to the organized stuff, I felt like more balls were put in play, even by kids who might not be as inclined towards baseball, who weren't maybe as athletic, but they too had played enough park ball that the game looked more like a game when it came to those rec ball games. And unfortunately, just the era of hypervigilance, safety, and then 24-hour news cycle, we don't let kids just go to a park to play anymore. It's maybe if you're lucky enough to be in a cul-de-sac where the families and you feel safe with it, then maybe they're out there doing some of that, but it's just less of that. And so that's just, for me, it's a pump up for Sandlot style activities. You got to get some Sandlots going. It can't just be organized practices. There's got to be some less structured ways for kids to just come get some ABs and play. And even within a practice. So for example, your Avery Jeans coach, I would just say there's got to be 20 minutes of just wiffle ball bats and wiffle balls out in the outfield. Let the kids figure out games or teach them over the line or whatever. They just need a lot of reps to learn how to put balls in play. And then we obviously, with softball, pitching is really difficult. That is a very difficult, very athletic, this power X thing they have to do to get strikes going. And so I don't know why they wouldn't have like a machine, a little single wheel ATEC next to the pitcher. Let's let you throw the batter. If it's a walk, cool, then we're going to pump one in there and let the hitter hit. That seems to me to be like a win-win. So I don't know, what the conversation between you and Little League is going to look like, but
Yeah, we've got that call, and I'll definitely discuss it. But the eyeball test is pretty clear. My doodah ball game. Grandma was like, "When you got that call at Little League?" Because this was unwatchable, and it's just that's the reality of it, and it polarizes travel ball and rec ball even more. If you are a good player and you want real ball, you're like, man, this isn't my kid's my kid doesn't want to play this game. All we're doing is watching a kid shoot free throws for an hour. So we run for the hills of travel ball, and we disregard rec ball even more. So gotta bring those two a little bit closer together. You gotta have that travel ball family saying, you know what, this rec ball thing is a good product. I don't think we should put the rules of game on such a pedestal, right? Why do they have to steal bases? Why do we have to have wild pitches or pass balls? Why do we even have to have game changer or keep score in these games, right? All those, it's kind of like the Hall of Fame, like the records are made to be broken, and you can't adjust rules. Man, this is for the future of the game. So, Chopper, anything on your brain as far as that goes?
I mean, you just hit nail on the head with the contrast to travel ball. We have our 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, young kids, on my younger group, and we played 4 innings in 47 minutes, and it was 3-0. And it was clean baseball. Balls were put in play. They were fielded. They were executed. Out was executed. But we practiced for a month straight, fundamentally. Like, okay, right, left field, right, left throw. We finished every practice with 30 minutes of 5v5v5. So they have that free play and they're free to make mistakes. Even in the game that we had, it's 1 man count to start. And so we just promoted these. We make little rule changes so that we can scrimmage. And every Friday we do it, and we only have under an hour to get it done. And so our first iteration of it was 47 minutes. I was blown away, but comes back to what you're saying. These kids don't want it, especially not fall ball. So like fall ball's a whole nother animal. You've got rec ball, then you've got fall ball, which is the vast majority of fall ball, not all, most, is kids that don't even play it really in little, like not even in the spring. So this is like, okay, I'm gonna take a little break from dancing or from my main sport or my main hobby. In baseball and softball, ask Michael Jordan, a heck of a lot harder than some of the other things that we ask kids to do. So it's a challenge, but I think we need to get back to way less. And we do have a really good podcast. It's got to promote action. I love the single wheel ATAC for softball. We do ours with the machine at times too. You've got to just promote action. If you got to put a tee out there, so be it. The ball needs to be put in play. Kids need to be moving. Otherwise, we're ruining the game. And kids won't do it. It's boring. It's boring. It's unwatchable. It's unplayable. You don't want kids to play baseball. Keep doing what we're
And I could have totally seen somebody out there in the field who would pause the game for 5 seconds and just let kids know when that ball was put in play. Okay, second base, you've got to go here. Shortstop, you're coming here, because there was only 7 balls put in play, so none of the girls really knew where to go. Nobody knew who to cover to base or who's supposed to. So having somebody that could either be that coach that after 3 pitches or so of a kid pitch, okay, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to front toss, we're going to get a ball in play. That way kids can learn, because that's the point. We've got to get these kids learning the game. All they're doing is standing there practicing their cartwheels and dance moves while they watch one girl run really fast and slide. So it's the same with boys in baseball. I've seen it on that level as well. And when you look at the 2 reasons why kids quit baseball, specifically Little League Baseball, 1, they're afraid of getting hit. 2, it's boring. Both stem from kids learning how to pitch, right? When kids are learning how to pitch at that 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old age, they hit a lot of kids. And then the reason it's so slow and boring is because of all the wild pitches. So again, putting the rules of the game on such a pedestal and saying that the argument is, well, we've got to get them ready for the next level. Nobody's going to play that game at the next level. They're going to run to soccer, lacrosse, somewhere that's more fun. So I don't know that Little League wants to govern everybody and micromanage every district and league. So we'll see. We'll have a conversation, and maybe it's up to each district on what rules you can play. Because there are some little leagues where there's a coach out there catching the wild pitches. There's a basket of balls beside the pitcher, so speed of play is up. And there's a rule where when it's starting to feel very, very dry and boring, boom, let's get a ball put in play and keep it moving. So universally, how does that work? We'll see, but we'll keep pushing for our game. Cool beans. All right, let's get into the topics from our listeners, and we try to hit 3 per day, and sometimes even more than that. But I'm going to start at the top of our list, and this one's actually a skill-based question. And I think maybe we'll start with good old Chopper here on this question. Any good drills for teaching young, and we're talking 6, 7-year-old hitters, how to start using their hips and their legs when batting? And a lot of times I use the term squish the bug because it's just a simple thing that kids understand of how to rotate their back toe to get the power from the back leg to the front leg. And I get a lot of comments of that, that's 30 years ago. It's different. I totally understand different strokes for different folks. But Chopperoo, this question is, besides the squish the bug, how do we get our guys using their hips and legs? All of them right now are arms only.
Yeah, a drill that I used, I was a little bit older, but I loved it. And I still love it for kids that don't use their hips, is just you can get little mini wiffle balls or tennis balls or wiffle balls, and you get get the hitter in an athletic stance and put their hands up by their shoulders, and you just toss, like side soft toss the wiffle ball towards their inner thigh and their backside, and they just hit the ball with their thigh, like rotating, hit the ball with their leg. So that teaches them that rotation. We were taught squish the bug. Yeah, it's a bad word nowadays because of people a lot smarter than us. But it makes sense. Just that concept of try to hit the ball with your legs. 1, 2, 3 is another really good drill, a little bit more advanced, but I do it with 6 and 7-year-olds where they get in their stance. Step 1 is stride with their hands back. Step 2 is what I call a little hip trigger. So their backside starts while their hands stay the same. And then step 3 is finishing your swing. So they just kind of learn that sequence, and it's just off a tee. But just them to try to start training, like my swing actually starts with my back hip. And you can try those. Those are 2 drills I would highly recommend. What do you got, Flick Money? You got anything else to do for the youngsters?
I do the exact same thing. It's kind of the Tom Amansky, the robotic, one step at a time. But what they need to feel, coach, what kids hitters need to feel is there's a tension when the lower body fires and the hands stay back for a split second. There's a saved up energy in the lower back, and it's a rotational energy. There's a twisting energy that's stored in the lower back. So if you can just get them to, like Coach Chop was talking about, stride with the hands back, and then fire that back knee or pop the heels or whatever verbiage you want to use, but hold the top side just for a second. They can feel that energy. Once they feel that energy, and then you release with the hands, you get the feeling of your bat speed is greater than the sum of the individual parts. Like, wow, that thing's really flying through there. And that's an exciting feeling for kids. So I just want them to get that feeling. So 6 and 7-year-olds can have a partner, or one where the partner's holding their shoulders. So then the lower body, the hitter fires the lower half, and the other one's holding their shoulders so they can't move, so they can feel that tension, and then let them go and let them release it. And we can do it in partners back and forth. But that's the feeling we're going for. That was what the great golfer Mo Norman would call the feeling of greatness. I think that's the feeling you're trying to get from young hitters.
Yep. I remember watching you teach this, Flick Money, back in the day, and you'd use the Elvis Presley hip, you ain't nothing but a hound dog, physicality. The reason I go squish the bug at T-ball at 6 is what I've learned is when they're crawling, they're not walking yet. They're definitely not sprinting. At very first instruct, I feel like they're a little more receptive to the ends of their body parts. That's their fingers. They kind of understand their fingertips. They understand their toes. So I'll go there. Before I talk about your core or your coil in your hips, which is more of a walk to a run, maybe that's the second or third thing I would teach. I just go with, well, this is the look, and you know what your toe is doing. Just slow motion, just get that to where you have some pain in your back leg. You slow motion, squish the bug, and then you feel this pain from your back leg moving over to your front leg. So it's a starter because they know how to squish a bug with their toe. They don't really know how to coil and uncoil their hips. They're 6. So when I see those comments of squish the bug, come on, dude. I understand it. I get it. But have you ever coached a 5 or 6-year-old who knows nothing about body movement? So that's where I go. Chopper.
Yeah, another thing I like to do for a visual with kids, especially youngsters, is, hey, pretend like you're a cowboy with a shiny belt buckle. And I want you to show your belt buckle to the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
So just let them explore the space, to use your term. And then by the end of this swipe, I need to see you showing your belt buckle to the pitcher. And then the sequence might be off, but at least they're getting the feel of like, all right, I gotta fire this thing. So yeah, that's a good one too for kids.
Well, and one of the things that, just from step back, there isn't a right way to teach any of this stuff. What works is what you get to work for your kids. We've all developed our own things because I've worked with enough hitters and teams and camps and kids. I'm like, okay, this age group, but I'm still learning because every kid's different. Every kid is a different puzzle to solve. So what works for one might not work for another. So I guess what I'm being a stand for is be creative. Try to figure out, there's different learning styles. Is this child a kinesthetic learner, which is a fancy way of saying they need to feel it physically in their body? You can say all the words you want, they're not going to do it. But if they can feel it one time, they'll do it 1,000 times. right? Are they a visual learner? So if they can see you doing it, then they can imitate you. Or are they more of an audible learner, which is, if you're coaching boys, is not typically our strength, not that it can't be, but boys typically are a little better either visually or kinesthetically. Girls are often really good at processing. They because of the words and communication thing, they can process what we say to them and then do it. But those are generalities, and you need to work with every child to find out what's going to work with that child. Coach Ballgame, when I was doing your camp, and we were down in what's not at Tustin, but the other one that I did, is that Echo Park?
That might have been
Lake Forest Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lake Forest Park. So when we were down there, I was teaching hitting, did a little hitting talk, and I told the kids in my group to get their back knee to the baseball. Okay, I'm trying to teach the same. I'm trying to get that back knee to rotate in and fire to the baseball. But what happened when a 6-year-old heard that? He started to swing, and he literally he swung his back leg around and swung it towards home plate to try to literally get his back knee into the hitting zone towards the baseball. It made perfect sense to him. He was doing exactly what I said. And I was like, oh my gosh, that thing that I've been saying, that's not effective for this child, and maybe not even for this whole group. It was very humbling. So we have to find new ways to say it. So to this coach who gave this question, if you find a new way or a new way of communicating or something that works, please share it back with us, because I'm always looking for new tools when it comes to working with the littles.
Yep. Yeah. Mike Schultz said you got to find the key for each lock. You got 12 kids on the team. They might all each have a different lock. So start with A, go to B, soup to nuts, and then hey, rock a video if you have to, or maybe some kids want to watch themselves, and they get better with that. So yeah, that's good stuff indeed, all the way around. Shifting gears to the mental side, we get this one a lot. We'll start with Flick Money on this one. An 11-year-old. I have an 11-year-old son playing 12U Little League. When things are going great, he loves the game. When things aren't going well, especially at bat, as soon as something goes bad, waterworks. He tries to hold it in, but it turns into pouting on the bench. I've been trying to tell him not to get upset and turn it into pushing yourself harder for the next time, but it doesn't seem to work. Any advice, Coach Flick Money, for this dad of this 11-year-old who's waterworks when it doesn't go their way?
Yeah, Coach, I'm thinking about this one a lot. And I'm thinking about this as a dad, because I have a 4.5-year-old, and he is very sensitive to failure. So he'll try something new. If it doesn't go right away, which it almost never does, it hits him really hard, really quickly. And I'm having to reteach myself as a parent how to work with this energy. So what I'm working on with him, and I think will also work really well with an 11 or 12-year-old, is when they're not escalated away from the game, over an ice cream sometime, let's sit down and have a conversation with them. Say, what's your goal here? Obviously, you want to be better at hitting, right? You want to have success as a hitter. So now let's reverse engineer from seeing yourself as a hitter who routinely smashes balls. What do you think? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What do you think that would look like in the dugout? What would that look like in the dugout on the time you didn't get a hit? Because even if you are amazing, even if you're the best hitter in the league, you're not going to get. So what would that kid look like? And so we want to engage their brain and starting to think like cognitively about their behaviors and about because telling them that they shouldn't do it that's not going to rewire from the inside. What has the potential to rewire the behavior is their own thinking about it. So let's reverse engineer. What would a great hitter look like in these situations? And what would a great hitter look like when they fail? And if you need to find some major league guys talking about failure, there's plenty of good stuff out there. I know you guys have some great episodes before I jumped on here with you guys with some big leaguers who talk about how they handle failure and how to work with young ones handling failure. But we just want to they need to think about their own thinking. They need to think about their own feeling and start rewiring. And then let's set some goals together. Okay, so we're not saying you have to be perfect. You're 11, so we're not going to get there right away. But maybe if last time I timed you, it was we lost you for about 2.5 minutes. You weren't cheering for the kids and the team. Your energy was really sucking some vibe out of the dugout. Let's get that down to 90 seconds for the next 2 weeks. And then we're going to work down to 60 seconds. Right. And then maybe by the time you're 13, you take a step up in maturity, and some of these tools have started to work, some breathing control and stuff. And maybe we can get that down to where you can, gosh, that sucks. Let me write it down, see what I need to learn for that time, and then I'm back in with my team. So there's a long-term goal, but we're just going to have to start by engaging them, and let's set some goals together about some steps we could take. That would be my best advice in this moment.
I love
really
it.
hoping it works with my own child.
And a lot of times the kid doesn't want to hear dad give them those tips. So maybe this is something predetermined preseason with your assistant coaches or the coaching staff. If something like this comes up, if we've got waterworks, is there an assistant coach that my son really respects and might even listen to more than dad? Because a lot of times when we talk about this, that father, son, daughter, father, whatever it might be, there's so much history there that they just don't really want to take that information in from mom or dad. So I think passing that off could be huge. I know for me, just having people that weren't my mom or dad come over to me and give me tips on the mental side, it really stuck with me. So that can be beneficial. Chopper, what do you got on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. Kids, we have a few of them on our team. They have a really hard time with it still, and it's been a couple years working on it. One thing that worked the other day at practice, I was coaching a game. My wife was running a practice, putting balls in the machine that were hitting on the field, and one of our athletes that struggles with this was about to go down this path because he was having a tough round of 10 off the machine. And he came over after his round, and my wife just used a funny voice and said, "Are you going to go crazy?" And she goes, "Would you rather just dance it out?" And he just started dancing, and then he was perfectly fine. She came home and was like, "Hey, this really worked tonight with this young athlete that we love." And it was cool. And then he had a great rest of the practice. So in that moment, it worked, kind of the redirection, lightening the moment, and then finding out you got to get to know your kids. This kid loves to dance. So she was able to hey, dude, dance. And so that worked in that moment. So I'm excited to try that again down the road.
If you can see the forest through the trees, I'd much rather have a kid that's upset when they fail than a kid that doesn't care. So that will mature into something great.
The only last thing I want to zip up on this is, as a coach, be curious, stay open-minded about it, because not all meltdowns are the same. Some of them are built from legitimate, that if that child's being bullied at school, they got some deep stuff going on. It might be that the baseball is just the failure, and baseball is just that's just the straw that's breaking the camel's back because it's public failure, and then that's like all the stuff they've got going on, and it just hits at that time. So just stay open and be curious when you're in those kind of conversations with them. Hey, how you doing? What's going on here? Is there anything else you want to talk about? And because what I found is when you're able to stay in that without an agenda, the kids there's a felt sense of safety. Like, I'm okay with this adult. This is okay to be in this conversation. I'm not about to be shamed. I'm not about to be so just try to stay curious. And even if it's your own child, you don't think that you might know everything that's going on in their inner world, because it's tough to be a human, tough to be a kid, tough to be a preteen. And right now with we didn't grow up with the social media craziness that these kids are growing up with, and the pressures and things. And so there's a lot that can be happening under the surface. Just stay empathetic.
Great points indeed. Guys, there's more people listening to this thing. The numbers are higher this season than they were last season. So thank you, coaches, for spreading the word. You're obviously letting your assistant coaches and parents on your team know about this podcast. As I run coaches clinics after my Sandlots around the country, and I ask who's listening to the Talkin' Shop podcast, more hands are being raised. So win small to win big. I love it. Guys, that's a good hour for today. Let's do it again next week. Answer more questions. Next week we'll get right into the topics, right into the questions. But I love you. I love your hats. I miss your scent, and thanks for making me better.
Bang.